Hello, Sile here again, coming at you with episode 2 of the Metaview Interview Data Masterclass. Now, I'm very excited about this one. This is the type of reporting that if you told a recruiter or recruiting leader about this even a year ago, they would have looked at you like an alien. But now it's possible. This time, we're going to learn to use Metaview's bleeding edge reporting to understand how competed for the talent you are targeting is and whether you need to adapt your recruiting approach accordingly. I.e., do you have candidates in your pipeline who are in competitive processes, who maybe you need to really pull out all the stops for, and how should that change how you go about recruiting them? So again, I'm going to jump over to views now within Metaview. And this time, I'm not going to use one of these really handy default reports. I'm going to create my own. I'm going to click on New View here. Now, right now, you have no real way of knowing how competitive any given talent market is, be it by location or job type or whatever it might be. You really just have to rely on hearsay. What do people tell you about how competitive a market is? Or just react once you start missing out on a few candidates. Both of those options suck. But as a Metaview customer, I can do a lot better than that, or you can do a lot better than that. So first of all, what I'm going to do is filter just for my engineering interview. So I'm especially concerned with my engineering pipeline. So I'm going to say Metaview, just show me conversations with candidates that are in the engineering pipeline. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to ask Metaview's AI to tell me which of these candidates are in competitive processes. And Metaview is going to figure this out by going through each of the conversations and seeing if the candidate shared anything that suggested that they were. So I'm going to click on this plus here and say discussed. And in interviews where anyone discussed being in an interview process with other companies. So Metaview takes a few seconds, looks through every single interview, and then pulls back the candidates who mentioned they were in competitive processes. Now, the ability to pull data based on what is said in your global interview pool is incredibly powerful, as you can see. And it's actually incredibly useful in a couple of ways. Firstly, I can use it to understand trends. So I can see how competitive, is this getting more competitive over time? Are more of the candidates in the pipeline actually in other processes as well? So I can see that via this graph. I can flip that over to weekly if I'd like to. Yeah, I can see we're coming off the back of, actually in the middle of a really pretty heavy week in terms of how competitive our process is. And secondly, I can actually use it just to see which candidates are being competed for. And that might mean that we just show up for those interviews in different ways, or really make sure we nail the candidate experience for these candidates that we know are in competitive processes. So super helpful, whether you're a leader that's trying to understand the market, or just a frontline recruiter who's trying to make sure you win the best candidates. So far, so good. But let's go one step further. Certainly one way to win hot candidates is to ensure your compensation is competitive. And getting up-to-date compensation data is always tough though. So again, what we usually do is we have to wait to lose a few candidates before I can really make the case to increase our offers or change our comp bands. But again, there's a lot of compensation data in your conversational data. So for all of these candidates that have mentioned that they're interviewing elsewhere, I also want to get a feel for their compensation expectation that they've shared with us. So I can work out if we're where the market is in terms of compensation, or if maybe that's the reason that we're struggling at the moment. Now this time, I don't want to filter, I don't want to reduce the size of this list. I just want to learn something about these people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an AI column. I have a list of ways that I can add columns to this table. I'm going to add an AI column. You can think of an AI column as basically meaning write some natural language and we'll create a column for you based on that data. So I'm going to call the column salary, expectations. I want the data to be returned in currency, and I want the AI to answer the question in this column, what are the candidates' salary expectations? So again, very similar to how you maybe use ChatGPT or use Metaview's AI assistant, I'm using natural language, but this time I'm telling Metaview, create a column in this table or create a column in this report and fill it in for me. It's getting towards this agentic AI. So Metaview will take a few seconds, and then having gone through each of these interviews, will both create this salary expectation column and fill it in. So I now have incredibly robust data, both about which of my candidates are competitive and also what their compensation expectations are. Now, because this is such a key pipeline, I'm going to create an alert to keep me abreast of this. So I'm going to pull up the information panel, save this down as a report, and actually now I'm going to add a subscriber. and I'm going to add myself because it's me in this case who wants to stay on top of this. And I don't want to be alerted about this every time it comes up. I'm going to say once a week, every Monday morning, send me a report so I know all of the candidates who we have in pipeline who are in competitive processes, and I know all of the candidates in my department's pipelines, what their compensation expectations are, who are in these competitive processes. And I'm going to add myself as a subscriber, and maybe I'll add some of my team as well. So this is really game-changing stuff. Again, I go back to what I said at the top of the video about this is the type of thing that if you told people this was possible a year ago, they would have thought you were crazy. Now it's possible with Metaview. Would love for you to check it out. Let me know if you have any questions.